Anywho, so the Green Bay Packers, Matt Miller's mock draft has the Packers taking Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas, and here's what they have to say about it. Matt says not you, Matt. Matt Miller says, God, he looked at me like you say a dog's name. Walk? Matt? What does it say, right, Molly?
It was.
I'm a nut. I just love me some me.
But it was like a confused look, like, why are you saying my name?
Yeah, I was like, what did I mock? Did I do a mock draft?
Like, the ears kind of go up on a dog. You're like, huh? That's the look I just got from Matt Hamilton here. All right, the Packers are entering the last year of Rasheed Walker's contract, and rumors around the league have Green Bay drafting a tackle early. Banks was a 3-year starter for the Longhorns at left tackle and allowed only 1 sack per season. He checks the size boxes at 6'5", 315, 33.5-inch arms. Started 42 games in college. That profile suggests he should be off the board by now, but concerns about his play power have teams saying Banks could slide inside. He's a poised pass protector and held up against top-level college competition, but he might be better as a run blocker because his hands and athletic movement. I'm higher on Banks than the league is. He's my overall number 10 prospect. This would be a steal for the Packers at the spot. Kelvin Banks was a guy who was mocked to the Bears at one point at 10. The issue with him, so I want to talk 2 parts of it. The issue with Banks is very much like Jordan Morgan.
Short arms.
Well, the arms are over 33.
Okay, that's
and
good.
There's no left tackle in the league who is starting who has shorter than 33-inch arms.
Take that for data.
So Jordan Morgan, a guy the Packers took who they thought maybe could be left tackle, they moved inside. The thing would be you'd have to be super athletic even at his 33.5-inch arms to be a left tackle because that's still a little on the short side. And the knock on Banks, just because I read a lot of stuff with him on the Bears, is that he is a kind of a road grader and might just be better, and he could be an average Rasheed Walker type left tackle, or he might be a beast on the inside. And so if you're drafting to be a left tackle, how many left tackles are you going to draft to move inside?
The only thing is that he would be the exact opposite of Rasheed Walker, because Rasheed Walker is seen as a solid pass protector and flimsy in the run game.
True, but just the idea of like you might end up with 2 guards.
But
with Jordan Morgan, you draft the left tackle, could be a guard, and then
could
Kelvin
also
Banks.
be a change in offensive philosophies.
It could be. So Banks is a polarizing process, but I want to talk just in general the idea that the Packers are being tied more and more to the offensive line, specifically a left tackle in the first round. The general philosophical part of it is you're taking a backup in the first round, again, when you're a team that needs starters. Mm-hmm. So that's what I really wanted to ask you, the thought about the Packers. Because I've had the same question with the Bears with their offensive line. They have a starting offensive line now. They replaced 3 of their starters. One of their starters, Darnell Wright, was top 10 pick. He's kind of growing up to be he might be a Pro Bowler next year. And Braxton Jones is probably similar to Rasheed Walker. So I don't necessarily need to take a backup right there with my 10th overall pick because I want someone who can play.
Right.
And the Packers, because the Bears have holes to fill
Packers
still.
love to take people
Packers
to
still have holes, and I understand that, but the Packers still have holes to fill. So with a team that has holes to fill as starters, do you want them to use their first pick in the draft on a backup? Because that's what, no matter where they draft the offensive line, that's what would be.
So, okay, go ahead.
No, go.
So my initial thought on it was like, great, we've got holes that really need to be filled, and sure, it's all fine and dandy, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get a starter in the first round. Like Gutey hasn't been great at it, right? But the Packers, you look at last year, like our bread was buttered in the run game. So anything we can do to make sure we're going to get max value out of this Jacobs contract, in my opinion, is probably the right move. It's not a sexy pick. It's not fun. I kind of hate myself for saying this because I want a wide receiver. I think Jordan Love needs more help, but like, what's going to help Jordan Love more? Maybe at wide receiver, not a guarantee like guy who could be that guy, or someone who's going to be on that line, take pressure off him in the running game, and maybe be a good pass blocker for him. Like, I feel like he benefits more from this offensive line move. So the more I think about it, because initially when I heard it, I was like, seems silly. But I kind of like the idea. Like, we paid a lot for Josh Jacobs. Let's maximize that contract. Give the guy another 300 touches this year. Let him, I don't want to say run him into the ground, but like use him. If you're going to pay him that much money, make sure he's getting the touches that make it worth it. And that's going to take pressure off Jordan Love. And if eventually, if Josh Jacobs can be good, it's going to open up the play action.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough because from a greedy standpoint, I'm like, I want a wide receiver. I want something sexy. I want something flashy. But like you just said, that if it's, I think what it comes down to is that Gutey is protecting his biggest asset, which is Jordan Love, because that is where his neck is on the line for. Because he basically blew up the entire organization because of Jordan Love in order to get him, right?
Yeah.
So he needs to protect that, which I don't disagree with. And like you just said about Josh Jacobs, I mean, it comes back to the conversation that Jim brought up earlier this week, when we discussed all the different quarterbacks that have a running back side by side with them in order to make them better. That it does feel like this is the route that the Packers are going rather than getting a star receiver, which I selfishly, like I said, as a fan, I would like to see versus offensive linemen. But, I mean, is Jordan Morgan going to be a starter? What
Not
does
starting this year, most likely.
So what does the offensive line, the full thing, what is it? Like, what is the lineup of the offensive line?
You're asking the names?
Yes.
Right now, it would be
all of it.
Left tackle to right. It would be Rasheed Walker, Aaron Banks, who they just signed in free agency, and then you'd assume either Elton Jenkins, probably Elton Jenkins at center, and then right guard would be the one that's up in the air of Sean Ryan or Jordan Morgan, and then right tackle would be Zach Tom.
And Ryan was the starter there last year, so.
Okay. Yeah. Which, I mean, also, on the flip side, seeing how the offensive line basically collapsed in the second game against Philadelphia, the last game of the season, it is good to have the backups. So it is worthwhile to have, but it makes me nervous. Are they just going to draft another Jordan Morgan? Are they going to get a Jacob Monk that we don't even know anything about anymore other than he's allergic to cold water? Like, that is literally the only thing we know about the guy. That's my concern. Is it just going to be another person that, okay, they're on the roster?
Well, because for an example here, the mock draft, just looking around, Matt Miller on ESPN, has, let's see, right behind him, the Minnesota Vikings taking Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, a corner. So then that's obviously a need at a starting position for the Green Bay Packers. So
not if he has CB1.
All right. So definitely, absolutely a need for the Green Bay Packers there. There's another guy, Trey Amos, a cornerback from Ole Miss, who would be on the board. Mikael Williams, an edge from Georgia. They could use some pass rushing, could still be on the board. I'm not going to – Ryan, I feel like you're going to be the best with this. The player from the edge from Boston College, Donovan.
Don't even ask me to try. I know exactly what you're asking.
Donovan Arikazu. I'm just taking a guess on that.
Yeah.
But he
has connections to Jeff Hafley.
Yeah, right.
The reason why I said it is that, Jeff Hafley coached him at Boston College.
And I believe he had 15.5 sacks last year.
Yeah, very productive player.
In the ACC.
He's a little undersized, 6'3", 248. But if anyone's going to have the insight if this guy could succeed or not, it'd be Hafley. Like, if I'm a Packers fan, that's a pick, even if that's quote-unquote a reach because he's supposed to be late first, early second round projection. If Hafley knows the guy, then go take the guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, realistically, our biggest need is corner, right? Don't you think, Molly? Like, the biggest need that the Packers have is corner. Like, we have a full stable wide receivers.
Bodies there.
They're not
you
great.
need an elite wide receiver, but you need bodies at corner. Absolutely.
Right.
I think you need an elite corner, too, though, because I don't think anybody they have is elite.
True, but
we
also
don't know how
lacking
good
the
Hobbs
actual
is going
bodies.
to be. We don't know. Cornerback 1, Keyshawn Nixon's going to step up.
Yeah, but see, we're all saying cornerback 1 because we're mocking it because he's not a cornerback 1.
By the way,
we all know it.
Worth noting, Hobbs has basically exclusively played his entire career in the same position.
In the
Nixon.
slot, yeah.
So, like, that's not – I don't love moving a guy from the slot outside.
Matt, you asked Molly what she thinks the Packers' biggest need is.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we're talking about who the Packers are going to draft, the most important question is what does Gutey think they need? Do you think he feels they need a corner over an offensive lineman right now, or do you think it's the other way around? What do you believe he thinks they need the most?
I mean, I don't want to believe the. I mean, who am I supposed to say that I know more than this Matt Miller cat? Right, like
he's just saying what he's hearing around the league. He's
right,
saying,
exactly. Like he's hearing something around the league. No, GMs have been tweeting or texting at me asking about who I think that they should go with. Like, I don't know, but personally, I think the biggest hole is corner, and I feel like I'm thinking the same way Gutey would think about it. So I would hope
you're not
Gutey
thinking the
would,
same way that Gutey is, because if you were thinking like Gutey, you'd be drafting an offensive lineman. You would be protecting Jordan Love over anything else.
And I get that, but you're drafting depth. And
I'm
I
not
don't
saying
love that
he's
in the
right.
first round.
I'm just saying that's Brian Gutekunst.
If I was looking at the Packers, I would go.
Gutey's got a pretty good track record of drafting linemen later in the draft.
Most people do. Linemen do not have to be super high picks.
Right. Yeah. Like
what have we all said was Brian Gutekunst's best pick?
Jair,
cornerback.
Well, then Elton Jenkins might be his other one.
Zach Tom's a good one too.
Not quite the level, but yeah.
Not to the level, but for a fourth-round pick.
Yeah, for a fourth-round pick, absolutely. I mean, he didn't pick him. Bakhtiari was second round. He was a Packer Hall of Famer at left tackle.
Bakhtiari was a fourth-round pick.
Oh, fourth rounder. Yeah, so even lower than I thought. So I would look at cornerback, wide receiver, DN, and then offensive line if on the Packers, because even depth at D-line, then you're doing what the Eagles did of waves of pass rushers. Wide receiver, you still need a star. And then corner, obviously, you need a star / more bodies.
See, with me, if I'm thinking like Gutey, he's going to think, oh, my edge rushers are going to take a step up. Like Rashawn Gary's going to be a Pro Bowler again, and Van Ness is going to take that next step. And he probably believes he's got a full stable of wide receivers. Like, these guys are fine. I'm kind of either cornerback because we need a pulse in that position, or lineman because, like Molly said, we got to protect asset number one.
Now, the one thing you could maybe sell yourself on is that Gutey, and they're looking at offensive linemen because where they're picking, he just thinks like that's where the best value is going to be. That the best corner is going to be off the board, and so he'd rather have the third best lineman instead of the fifth best corner. And so that could be why he's circling in on it based on reading the tea leaves of the draft and the prospects in there. He could be circling in on, hey, this is most likely who's available. Because there could be someone that falls, and that's another thing where I wonder how much the Packers adjust on it. Like if someone fell and you're like, oh my God, hopefully they've done their research.
Gutey seems to be the best available kind of guy.
Right, but it's like, so like if Matthew Golden fell, the Texas wide receiver. Yeah, or if another wide receiver.
Okay, unless it's a wide receiver. Unless it's a wide receiver and they fall.
But again, is he prepared for that? Because sometimes these guys fall, you better know why.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Like there's a guy, Mike Green. He's got some off the field issues that need to be cleared up. He's fallen from maybe a top 10 pick to down to 16 Arizona. I don't think the Packers are really in the business of picking off the field issues guys, and it's not the best issue. It's still muddied. But if he did get cleared and he did fall, Mike Green was a top 10 talent.
I mean,
and he's an end. He's an edge, excuse me.
They signed McManus.
This is worse, similar,
right.
But worse.
Ballpark.
But yeah, ballpark area. And again, I don't know enough about it, but I do know he's slipping.
Right.
So there could be someone that slips. So hopefully Gutey's ready if someone slipped to know why they're slipping.